Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. Today is election day in the United States. Already 100 million or 73% of those who cast their votes in 2016 have already mailed in their votes. So this is going to be a record election in terms of turnout. We don't even know at this point of time how many will end up casting their votes. In the midst of all this, you have Corona, you have all these attacks on in Europe. So nobody really knows how each one of these things is going to impact this general election, because these days everybody is talking about everything across the world. To make a little bit of sense of where things are, which are the decisive states that are going to decide this election, let's join Sridhar Chityalaji. Chityalaji, namaskaram and welcome to PGurus channel.
Namaskaram. Good morning to all in East and West Coast, and good evening to those in India, and good afternoon to those who are in Europe. Where we are, I think we have reached the most decisive day in United States electoral politics. Most decisive day in electoral politics. 100 million people have voted. It looks like, based on all the data that we see, everything is now hovering around about 3 to 5 states. Originally, the battleground was 12, came down to 9. It's now probably boiled down to about 5 states, which is Florida, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Wisconsin, is small overall. It makes up the number, but it could be quite decisive at the same time. Both sides are claiming an edge. There was a report last night. All these poll numbers seems little absurd and manipulated or miscalculated. This is coming even from the NBC, which is historically considered pro-democratic. So the on-ground reports of each of the political parties seems to be much more reflective of what's happening to the close to the reality. If we use that as a basis, Republican Party believes that North Carolina and Florida is well in their camp, along with Texas, Georgia, Arizona, etc. Right? These were all kind of borderline or part of the battleground states. So there is, again, in Pennsylvania, you can see the last campaign was in Pennsylvania. Both Trump as well as Biden spent a lot of time in Pennsylvania. So it may boil down to Pennsylvania is the anchor, just as last time, as the most decisive state. So that brings to the next question, which is namely, would we know the results tonight? The answer seems to be moving towards no. They have not commenced counting the votes of what has already been received. All would start later. So this could be 3, 4, 5 days away in terms of actually getting an outcome as to who is going to be the president of the United States.
Well, we saw now a slew of incidents in France and yesterday in Austria, where depending on who you read, there were between 4 to 7 people dead. And this was an bombing attack on a synagogue. And so all these things will also have some sort of an effect on the people who are going in to vote today. How do you think these things affect the Republicans or the Democrats? Do you have any sense of which way things are headed, sir?
Well, you make a great point, which is, the most recent incidents in France, actually 3 incidents in France, and the 2 incidents in France. And one, if you take the incident, just a couple of months old, which is 3 incidents in France, and the synagogue incident, which is actually a shooting incident. And last night they still were trying to locate some of the accomplices. So how does it play in? It probably has a factor that would go in. Having experienced it, not along the same lines, but in a different way, here in United States, in quite a few states, particularly in West Coast, Midwest, little bit of parts of East Coast as well, in New York, you have seen incidents of violence and incidents of burning, looting, all kinds of things that occurred during this particular phase. So security is one of the elements that, at least to our external observers, that we seem to have a factor. But the Gallup poll seems to indicate something different. Contrary to the democratic theories, which is economy. No, economy was not. Economy people seem to be giving, very low because they feel things are going. But jobs and more around the uncertainty about when and how this pandemic is going to end seems to be weighing highly in their minds, and whether security in itself weighs as a factor was not validated in the poll. So we can only go by people preferring more stability rather than the kind of violence that one saw.
Well, let's move on to other geopolitical conflicts and so on. Yesterday, the Ministry of External Affairs of India gave a clear-cut message to Pakistan: clear out of Gilgit-Baltistan. And this is the most strongest message that I have seen come out of the MEA in a long time. What do you make of it, sir? And what are the overall implications of India making such a strong stand? I'm, by the way, very happy that the MEA is starting to play on the front foot.
Well, I think it is. There seems to be a coordinated mechanism between what's happening in north around the Ladakh Leh areas and to what has happened in the Gilgit-Baltistan part of the POK. So, Ministry of External Affairs has made it extremely, explicit in its statement. Get out. The word that is used is get out of Gilgit-Baltistan. The entire Kashmir belongs to India. Therefore, please get out. Now, that's a very explicit statement, coming from MEA, as you rightly point out. Now, what could be the reasons? There could be, with election uncertainty, whether people are entertaining some aspersions as a close coordination between the Chinese and the Pakistanis, especially the Gilgit-Baltistan area is the conduit, for the CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. So it could be, what you call a game changer for China if that area is taken over.
There is I'm sorry, go ahead, sir. I thought.
No, India made a point very clear, which is to say that the CPEC corridor is illegal.
Well, if viewers might have noticed that we had a couple of videos that we had shown on PGurus channel, wherein you had representatives from Gilgit-Baltistan, Pak-occupied Kashmir, even the even the European Union representatives who were saying that there is a lot of atrocities being committed by the Pakistani government in Pakistan, and all these Balochistan, exit Balochistan has also been given a call. So a lot of pressure building up within Pakistan. We don't know whether that's going to lead to it breaking up under its own weight, but certainly there's a lot of pressure. And what we have to see next is how this thing is going to play out, with a clear-cut message from India that Pakistan needs to clear out of Gilgit-Baltistan. We have to see how that's going to play out. Next question, sir. We are taking a look at economy because we've already spent a fair amount on politics. The unemployed who are not getting any benefits now, and they were waiting for stimulus version 2 to kick in to continue at least some amount of benefit that they were drawing upon, now appear to be quite upset. Again, whose fault do you think they will think that the stimulus version 2 was not signed? Who are they going to punish?
Well, first and foremost, the stimulus only extended the benefits, not curtailed the current benefits. There was additional $500 offered as part of the Fed package, and then the states topped it up with an additional $200. So basically, stimulus was an extension to the existing package, so that, because of the lack of jobs and so on. Anyway, to who they can kind of blame, it depends on your political, what you call mindset, right? So they can blame the Republicans because the Republicans did not toe the line of Nancy Pelosi. The Republicans say that there was a targeted program which included, which is what I call as very responsible. That is Republicans' words, right? Responsible stimulus package, which is aimed at the targeted sectors, which includes unemployed, extension of the PPP program, extension of medical facilities, medical aid to the hospitals, additional testing, including some element of money that was given to the local administration and schools, more specifically, because the schools are reopening, right? So they were given. And where the breakage point was around bailing out, this is the view of the Republicans, Steve Mnuchin and Trump, bailing out some of the local administrations which are under the custody of or under the management of the Democratic Party. The fiscal stimulus is not about bailing mismanaged states and mismanaged councils. I think that's where it kind of broke down.
Well, the overarching question that is going to be in the minds of voters is, okay, so it doesn't matter who's winning and who is fighting this perception, who is losing this perception battle. At the end of the day, I'm not finding any money coming down to me, and I'm still, digging deeper into my savings. So this is the mindset of people. So we have to find out how that reflects itself at the ballot. Sir, yesterday we had a little bit of a discussion about which way the Congress is going to go, which way the Senate's going to go, and which way the presidential system presidency is going to go. What are your thoughts? Do you think the race has tightened up in the last 24 hours? It appears to be so, because I'm looking at 538.com, Trafalgar Group's website, and in these were the two diametrically opposite views, and I'm seeing that 538 is predicting a much tighter contest. What do you say, sir? Congress,
I think, in my view, notwithstanding the fact, I believe that that the Democratic Party probably have an edge in the House, just because of the number of seats that they have to flip over. Whereas the Senate, while the Democrats have any chance to flip, I think Republicans have really put their effort in ensuring that there is enough kind of on-ground effort to retain and also to retrieve some marginal seats if feasible, right? So, for example, Iowa is going in our way. Iowa is going Republicans' way, right? So, so that's just an example on the Senate side. So I think the Senate the Republicans with a thin hairline margin may retain. As I mentioned last time, the narrowing is more in favor of Trump rather than in favor of Biden. NBC poll last night said most of the numbers don't seem to be correct. It is exactly the same problem that we had in 2016 elections. So one of the mysteries that came over from 2016 to 2020 is the political activism in managing these numbers. So we don't know whether it is, what you're seeing represents the right reflection of the sample. One thing is clear: almost all of the Republicans have come to the party and voted, and that's reflected in the size of the number of people who have voted early. 100 million, as I mentioned, it's a very big number. I think we're going to have very extensive participation by United States, the people of the United States, to make sure that their vote is rightly cast and monetized in line with their political aspirations.
and I agree with you that there is an increased awareness that they must cast their ballots. In fact, in my family, all of us have voted already, and we are just sitting back now to see how the elections unfold. So lastly, the retail sales in the United States have seen an uptick, in fact a considerable uptick, as the third quarter earnings have come in. So does this mean that the United States has seen the worst of the recession caused by the coronavirus?
I would say that this is not something that is very well understood. And I think we touched on this in one of the shows. the integration of the fiscal, monetary, and the stimulus, which is more market and consumer related, has been one of the most outstanding features of the Trump presidency relative to any other presidency in the past. The stimulus of $2.2 trillion is almost like, you put a nuclear weapon so that you can have a maximum impact. So the retail sales came back to normalcy, almost to pre-pandemic levels, in less than 6 months. From between March and September, they came back to the normalcy. The employment numbers is, which went up to 14-16%, has now come back to, less than, at about 7%. The unemployment, people claiming unemployment benefits for the past 6 weeks, has been coming down quite steadily, right? When you validate the consumer survey and backed by the numbers, they say they will be spending this Christmas season, holiday season, probably average spend may be less than $50, but they're going to spend. It's a reflection that the stimulus has had an effect. The PPP program has, to some extent, preserved the continuity of employment, which plays into the emotions and sentiments. Even the stimulus money, they have very well calibrated how they would allocate between savings, spend, and discretionary activities, right? Spend is for their consumptive patterns. The discretionary is what you spend for holiday season. So there seems to be a finely calibrated model propagated by the stimulus program, and they know the stimulus is imminent irrespective of which party comes to power. That's what is giving them the confidence to go to the market and spend money. It's very unusual.
Before we sign off on today's segment, can you cap the top 3 things that are happening in the next 24 hours that we'll be looking at tomorrow?
Top 3 things is obviously, number 1 is the election results, which is going to be which way the world is going. Number 2 is how does the markets behave relative to what the election results are going to unleash. Number 3 is how does the global security theater, which is you mentioned in a couple of videos. Now, how does that kind of play out? Because there's problems in North, there's problems in the Indo-Pacific, there's problems in South China Sea, there's problems near shore. How that is going to play out, and how domestically, whether there are going to be any disturbances and violences in the United States. So those are the 3 main headlines that we will see. One is the outcome, second is the markets and its perception, and third is the potential uncertainties that can be created and whether people are going to exploit it.
The market futures today seem to be a slight uptick there, and we will leave it at that. Thank you very much, Sridharji, and we'll be back tomorrow, same time, same channels, and do please subscribe to PGurus channel, and thank you once again, and namaskar.
Namaskar. Thank you, Ji.